right. Hey, we welcome everybody to the all-new Acquisition Council, brought to you by Vehicle Acquisition Network and VehicleHero.com. This is a live streaming 60-minute event, and this will be our inaugural episode, which we plan to do every month right here on our YouTube channel. The program is intended for automotive retailers and industry allies with a vested interest in the used car business, and in particular, with consumer vehicle acquisition. I am your co-host, Ryan, and you also see Ben Dykstra here from VehicleHero.com as well. What is going on, my friend?
Good to see you here, Ryan. Thanks for having me on. Pleasure to co-host with you, my friend.
I know this is kind of long in the making, and here we are. And you got a lot of sunshine behind you today. Where are you today?
I do, yeah. We're in sunny Houston, Texas, at the Rowdy Ranch. So if you see any exotic animals walking behind me, it's just keep moving.
You're at the Rowdy Ranch. That's literally what it's called, the Rowdy Ranch.
The Rowdy Ranch. That's right.
Cool. Very cool.
You know, I like everybody I approach now on Facebook, like add them as a friend, like doesn't want to add me anymore because when they see the pictures of where we've been and what we've been doing, they assume that I'm one of these fake, Bitcoin or crypto profiles that I'm going to like spam them with trying to get them to sign up for some program to make a bunch of money. But no, this is life, man. This is life on the road with Vehicle Hero, and it's amazing.
Cool. So what's going on in Houston? Can you share?
This is just family vacation. This is just cousins hanging out with cousins and dad working on the road. So we've got some friends in town, and it's really not a business trip. It's just life.
Now, is the ranch, is this like a bed and breakfast type place you're staying at, or is this a family ranch that in the family?
No, they got a little house here on the property where we can stay. It's pretty cool.
Cool. All right. Well, I like the scenery. Very cool. So as we know, I think we have a little technical difficulty. We had our special guest lined up today, Danny Moreno from Dykstra Volkswagen. He's an acquisition specialist. He could end up popping in a little bit later. Maybe there is a miscommunication on time, so you never know. But what we'll do is we were planning to do my interview with Danny. We'll postpone that for when he gets here, and we'll probably end up skipping right to your interview with Emily Gehrke, our performance manager.
We're super excited to have Emily on. I'm sure Danny will pop in. Unfortunately, he called in with technical difficulties, so we worked to resolve that. We'll just move on with the show.
Yeah, so we're going to ad lib a little bit, and then we'll get into things. The title I gave today is Supplementing Inventory Gaps with Vehicles from Consumers. So after your conversation with Emily, which maybe we could extend a little bit, then we'll bring Van co-founder on, Bill Anderson, and we'll have a panel discussion around that. So stay tuned, folks, for all this and more. We'll be right back right after this.
What's up, Emily? Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here. I wish I had your view for sure, but instead you see my China cabinet. So
it looks all right, man. You got some very colorful pottery back there. It's looking good. Well, for those of you who don't know Emily, allow me to introduce her. She is one of the core team members of Van. Been with the company for a long time, much longer than I have, in fact. And she has experience in the trenches. She has experience in retail dealerships. And she's running some of the biggest initiatives that Van has going right now in the marketplace. Most recently, I don't know if I should name them, but you can if you want to.
You absolutely can, yeah. So I've been with Van for a little over 2 years now. I celebrated my 2-year anniversary in April. Love it on the vendor side. I started in the dealership about 9 years ago now. So started out as a BDC representative, moved over to the internet director role, and then finally the F&I director role is where I ended up. And then when I got married, he dragged me down to central Illinois, and now I get to work from home. So you may hear a dog barking in the background. You may hear some chatty toddlers, comes with the territory. But yeah, so I've been recently assigned to some great initiatives, like Ben said. We are currently working with, Vehicle Hero, which is fantastic. We are so happy with everything that Ben has been doing with Vehicle Hero. And then, of course, AutoNation. I don't know if we can say that, but we have several AutoNation dealerships that are with us, and I'm in charge of all of them. They're doing fantastic with the program. Definitely great feedback from everyone, and they're doing some good things. So we're happy to have AutoNation with Van.
Yeah, it's super exciting, and it's an exciting time for Van as a company. We want to make sure that, with our live show, that we're providing really good information for people that are in the trenches that are doing this job, right? That it's not just one sort of advertisement for the company, but that we actually provide real content and information. And so that's the reason that we wanted to have Emily on today, was to share some insights and go through some best practices, like things that could actually help, like right now today, to buy 1 more, 2 more, 3 more cars. We know that these days, when you buy a car, you've already sold it pretty much, right? Yeah, so an acquisition is a sale. It's that important. So should we dive right in, Emily? What do you think?
Go ahead. Yeah, sounds good.
Perfect. Well, I'm going to read from the list of predetermined questions, if that's okay.
Sounds good.
I couldn't resist that one.
Right.
So one of the approaches, there's kind of 2 different approaches, right? So you say, hey, let's go buy some cars. So you go on Facebook Marketplace, or you get in the Van software, you go to your favorite consumer listing site, and you're getting ready to start the conversation. And the question that you might ask yourself is, how do I start this conversation? Do I come right out of the gate and say, hey, this is Emily with AutoNation Ford, and we'd like to make you a no obligation offer to buy your vehicle today? Or do you say, hey, is this still available, and how are the brakes?
Yeah, so you're exactly right. There are kind of 2 ways to go about doing this. Personally, for me, I feel like it's more transparent and respectful to kind of ID yourself as a dealership right away, so that you're not blindsiding anyone. So, your overall response rate after that dealer introduction might be a little bit lower than it would be if you were to simply say, is this still available? How are the brakes? But at least that the people that do respond, are at least interested in engaging with the dealership, right? Because you could hear back from, a person and say, I'm not interested in working with a dealership. And now you've wasted their time, you wasted your time. And, time is of the essence, obviously, with our platform. So you may have also unintentionally made your dealership look a little shady by doing that. If you don't introduce yourself as a dealership right away, if you've gone ahead and engaged with them and done some back and forth, and now you've gone all the way to, asking them some qualifying questions. And then now they're interested in working with you. But then when you introduce yourself from a dealership, they may come back and say, nah, I'm not interested. And now you've
I wonder why that would be. Like, why would that ruin it? You use the word blindsided. I would think that somebody who is selling a car would be open to offers from anybody who wants to buy it.
You would think so.
What is that?
You would think so. So people have like a negative taste in their mouth, either from previous, experiences at the dealership, or they just have this mindset that they're not going to get what they want with the dealership. They may think that whoever is reaching out to them is going to haggle them and, cut them below the knees. And in some cases that might be true. But our van team or our van dealerships are very well trained. And I would say that, most of them, the majority of them know how to respectfully offer an appropriate value for vehicles. So you could obviously change their mind. That's something that, we like to do. We try to change their perception of the dealership, but it's not always the case.
So, is there never a situation where the seller's asking price is attainable? I mean, because that's presumably the reason, right? They wouldn't want to work with a dealership because they think they're going to get lowballed.
Right.
Our best performers, I would imagine, are offering just fair market price for a car. And lowball, I use that word tongue in cheek because I hate that word. Like we make fair market offers on vehicles. We don't ever lowball anybody. But like, is it always lower than the customer is asking?
Not always. We have a lot of dealerships that take pride in the fact that they offer very aggressive numbers, and especially right now when the market is the way it is. So, some people are down to earth and can offer realistic or can, ask realistic numbers for their vehicles. In other cases, they've, looked at Kelley Blue Book, trade-in value, excellent condition. And as we all know, less than 3% of vehicles are in excellent showroom condition. So they may think that their vehicle's pristine, but we know, after years of doing this, that it's probably not. There are probably things that the seller isn't taking into consideration that we would. Another thing that they're probably thinking of doing when they are coming up with that number is they're trying to cover a lien on the vehicle. Their asking price might be unrealistic because they have a incredibly high lien to pay off and they just don't have any money to, come up with to pay that lien off. And they're hoping that some unsuspecting private party, person is kind of, ignorant enough to go ahead and accept that number as the value of their vehicle, when in reality, we can do all of the market research and we know that it's not worth that.
Yeah, so it's interesting because when you get to the point where it's time to make the offer, to present the offer, right? We've done all the qualifying of the vehicle and it's time to present the offer. There's a strategy to that, right? There's a couple different ways to do it. And probably the two most common differentiators would be, do we make a solid offer and say, hey, as long as everything checks out, the condition and everything, like here's the number, this is the offer. Or you could put it in a range, right? Say, assuming, based on recent transactions and assuming the vehicle is as it was represented, it would be within this $2,000 or $3,000 range. Which approach do you or do you see as best from the dealerships that you work with?
Actually, there are three approaches. The first one is not providing any sort of number or offer at all and just getting them in. Yeah. I do have some dealerships that have really, found that successful. And, it can be as long as you approach it the right way. So you want to make sure that you're remaining transparent with those sellers. If they're asking some outrageous number for their vehicle and that ahead of time and you invite them in for an appointment, chances are if they agree to come in for an appointment, they think you're going to be close to their asking price or at your asking price. And if you're not there and that ahead of time, then you've really kind of shot yourself in the foot when they get there. Now they're going to be upset that you led them on. They're going to be upset that they took time out of their day to come in for an appointment when in reality, you're nowhere near their asking price. And they could leave you a negative Google review. They could leave you a negative Facebook review. And your reputation as a dealership is really just not worth that. So I strongly recommend, remaining transparent with that if you do use that approach. Now, you mentioned the range and the single point offer approach. Nothing wrong with either of those. The single point offer, in this case, you would say, Mr. Customer, vehicles like yours are transacting somewhere around 14,000, in this metro area. Could be worth more. It would just be a matter of coming in for an in-person appraisal and us doing a quick 20-minute walk around. Do you have any time today? Nothing wrong with that. Now, the problem that I see with it personally would be they see that number and they think there's no room for negotiation. So they see that number and they think, no, my vehicle's obviously worth more than that. No, if they're at 14,000, I'm definitely not coming in. You've also not covered your bases in case it's lower than that. So if they come in and they didn't disclose some sort of issue with it, mechanically or cosmetically, now you have told them 14,000, but it could really be worth 12 or 13. So that's the issue with that. The range covers all of your bases. So if you do like a $1,500 spread, that would look something like, Mr. Customer, vehicles like yours are transacting somewhere between 12.5 and 14. Could be worth more or less, just depends on an in-person appraisal when can come in. Now you've covered your bases. So in case there is something mechanically or cosmetically wrong with it, you have mentioned that it could be worth about 12.5 or less, or you could be on the high end of the range at 14. And they typically see the high end of that range and they think, oh yeah, that's where I'll be. My vehicle's pristine. I've never had any accidents. It's never been smoked in, anything like that. So chances are they will be more likely to come in with the range versus the single point offer. But that's entirely up to your dealership as a whole. Whatever your process is, just make sure that you stick with that process and carry through with it.
I would think it would depend a little bit on the desired look to book, right? So how many cars am I willing to look at for, versus how many will I buy? And I think if your strategy was to look at as many cars as possible, that range might do a better job of bringing people in with a little more work to be done once they arrive. Versus the specific offer, might bring in fewer people potentially, but the ones that do come in would be pretty much ready to go.
Yeah, ready to go.
That's accurate potentially?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that just transparency is the key here. I recommend my dealerships, if they do make those offers, be transparent with your seller and show them where you're getting these numbers from. Because chances are they do have that taste in their mouth previously. They think, oh, that dealership's going to be ripping me off. They're just trying to make a buck. When in reality, you've done your research. You have all of the market values from the last 30, 60, 90 days. And you can use that and show them and take it as a learning opportunity for them. And I have found that a lot of sellers respect that in a dealership where, you kind of take the time to educate them versus just saying, this is my number and not explaining. Oh no, are you frozen? Ben,
sorry,
are you frozen?
I cut out for a second.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, maybe.
I was like, oh no, is that me or you?
That doesn't matter. It happens with these things. It's no big deal.
Yeah.
So Ryan, feel free to jump in here at any point. I know we're going a little bit over a lot of time for this segment, but given the technical issues with Danny, I'm assuming it's okay if we go a little bit over. So I'll ask you a couple more questions if that's okay, Emily.
Yeah, that's fine. Go ahead.
All right, fantastic. So when you set an appointment, what do you find is the best way to be prepared for that appointment? Like what sorts of things should the dealership be getting ready before the customer comes in?
So obviously you're going to want to try to gather as much information ahead of time as you possibly can so that nothing's a surprise. So, try to ask as many qualifying questions as you possibly can. Is there a spare set of keys? Has the vehicle been smoked in? Do all of the tires match? Is there a lien on the vehicle that you're trying to pay off? Is there anything cosmetically or mechanically wrong that I may need to know about? Additionally, you're going to want to run a Carfax. That's, obvious one, just to make sure that there's no one coming in that has a branded or a salvage title. And then you're going to want to let them know that they're supposed to bring a spare set of keys, any lien holder documentation to their appointment, just in case you do agree upon a number, and make sure that you give them some clear instructions upon the appointment as well, where to go, who to ask for, how long it might take. When they can expect a check is another good one. Some dealerships are on the spot and can offer a check within 30 minutes, and other times it takes a little bit. So you want to make sure that you are being clear about that to the seller as well. This will just ultimately allow for a smooth appointment all the way around. And then I also have some dealerships that kind of set themselves apart from the appointment. And they have like a little bit of a niche, I guess you could say. So sometimes they offer the seller something complimentary. Like I have one dealership, they are across the street from a Starbucks. And anytime they invite someone in, they say, what's your Starbucks drink order? I'd love to have that waiting for you when you get here. Yeah, I think that is the coolest thing ever. And they always put in like a little treat, like a slice of the lemon bread or a cake pop too. And I think that that is so cool. And then I have another dealership that offers them a $25 gas gift card, regardless if they make a deal or not. Just, hey, thanks for your time. Thanks for coming in and giving us a shot. And then one other thing that I thought was really cool is another dealership of mine. They are across the street from a movie theater, and they offer a complimentary movie ticket and voucher for popcorn and a drink anytime a seller comes in. So he says, go enjoy a movie on us while we work up your paperwork and get your check cut. I think it's genius. So that's something that you can think about to set yourself apart.
I think that's super cool. I know for my wife particularly, if somebody put a mocha frappuccino in front of her,
right.
while they spent the next 30 minutes looking at the car and preparing the check, like that would absolutely make her day.
Yeah.
It's the little things, right?
And I would for sure show to that appointment, right? Like your show ratio just has to skyrocket with that. And they do a really good job. I mean, I will tell you, they have a great acquisition ratio. So something to think about.
Yeah, for sure. So, okay, speaking of the acquisition ratio, I imagine that the in dealership experience, like what actually happens, matters more than just about anything else. I mean, you have to get the customer there, right? Nothing happens unless you get the seller there. But once they're there, like everything has to go according to plan, or else it triggers people, right? It's like, nope,
Yeah.
I was suspicious of this.
Yeah.
Just forget it. I'm ready to go. I've seen it happen personally, right? I've had it happen to clients of mine. Particularly when you're walking around the vehicle, that process of sort of verifying that what was represented over the phone and pictures and descriptions and all that is actually what's here in front of us physically. This is the car, right? And the descriptions match. What's the best way in your experience to make sure that that happens and happens well?
So, I mean, obviously the best way to involve them is to do the walk around with you, right? I mean, we learned that in Salesman 101, and it's really the only way to do it. So, this way you can ask them your qualifying questions and you can point out any mechanical or cosmetic issues that are obvious to the naked eye. So, in this case, you can say, oh, what happened to this door? I see a dent in the crease. We're not going to be able to get that one out. The car has been smoked in. It will cost us a little bit of money to smoke bomb this car. There's a burn hole in the seat, whatever it is. But you want to make sure that you're remaining respectful and courteous during the walk around so that you're not offending anyone, because, that would just ruin it right then and there, and they'd leave and they'd be disappointed. So, when you do point out these imperfections in front of them, they start to realize that their vehicle might not be worth as much as they originally thought. And as I mentioned, when they do get those prices, they're either covering a lien or they're looking on Kelley Blue Book trade in excellent condition. So, you want to use this time to educate your sellers as well, in a transparent manner, and just say, hey, this is based off of what I've seen during this walk around. This is what we think that it would be worth, and then here are the numbers. Here's where I'm getting this information from.
Yeah.
Would you agree that it would be the best idea to just do it with them instead of leaving them at your desk and then?
Well, I'm not the one being interviewed, but of course I agree.
Right. I mean,
they know, they need to know that we know that they know that we know.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
We have to all see it together, right?
Right.
And what I tell dealers all the time is, the only purpose of this is to make, it's not about them telling us what we ought to be able to pay for it, or them telling us what needs to be fixed or doesn't need to be fixed in order for the car to be retailed. The only conversation is, does the description match what's here? That's it. And if it doesn't,
in some cases it doesn't,
then there have to be adjustments. And in most cases, it's unintentional. Right. The sellers have not intentionally misrepresented their vehicle in most cases. They just simply forgot that dent was there.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, chances are they're not trying to pull a fast one on you, right? I mean, sometimes they are, right? You all have those people that are like, oh, they're never going to notice this, but we are the experts, so we see everything. Maybe to a private party interested buyer, maybe they wouldn't notice it if they have no prior experience evaluating vehicles. But that's also another reason why they may not want to do business with the dealership, is because they know that we know that they know that we know, that kind of thing. So they may try to hide something, and they think, oh, well, a private party buyer would never notice this, so that's why I'm trying to sell it privately. That kind of thing.
Yeah, game on, right? I know. And people say dealerships are sleazy. What are you going to do? Right. Well, Emily, thank you so much for joining us on the show today and sharing your expertise. Those are some valuable insights that I think our viewers can put into practice right now to optimize the process. So thank you for taking the time to share that with us. I did get a note that that Danny was able to get logged on. So Ryan, I'm going to pass it back over to you and continue on.
Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, Emily.
Kid, everybody comes here for different reasons.
You mean they're not here to buy cars?
Some, but most use buying cars as the excuse to come to the auction. Others come just to get out of the store. Some like to travel. Some come for the food, the attention, the camaraderie. And then there are people like Rob.
Why does he come to the auction?
Because he loves to golf.
Let's face it, traveling to auctions out of state is usually a major waste of time. And that's exactly why Rob loves it.
He looks like he's taking it seriously.
Rob does a lot of things right. He gets here early, he gets his run list.
He walks the lot like he's studying the golf course he's gonna play.
Brings his own clubs,
Clubs?
his own scan tools to help him assess whether the problems are serious or really nothing.
He breaks the vehicles down by pars. How many miles is like how many feet to a hole. He tries to make sure he birdies.
Birdies?
He buys a set number of par 3s, par 4s, par 5s. You know, low miles, average miles, high miles. It doesn't go over.
He sounds like he's doing everything right.
You'd think. Hey Rob, come meet the kid. She's my protege.
Hey, I'm Rob.
Katie,
You golf?
not regularly.
Oh, you'll start. Especially coming in the auctions. I know all the best courses at every auction. I've been to every one. As a matter of fact, I have a tee time at 1 p.m.
You better get that in before the storm hits.
How can you be sure you'll get everything you need by then?
I either get it or I don't. Nothing stops me from making my tee time. But I just use Vehicle Acquisition Network to supplement my inventory if I don't get enough vehicles here.
I've been researching that for a while now.
Ugh, the internet.
Give it a shot.
What's your handicap?
If you ask my dealer, it would be my need to play golf. One time, an auction was giving away a free golf cart for the person who bought the first 20 cars. I bought the first 20 I saw. One of my proudest days. Well, nice meeting you.
Yeah, nice meeting you.
You see, if your priorities aren't what you came here to do, you can do good, but rarely good enough.
If he spends all this time traveling to auctions and cutting out early to play golf, he must be as good as a pro.
Rob hacking away at balls all day on a golf course doesn't make him a pro any more than you standing here makes you a car. Now let's get out of here and find a place to go hit a bucket of balls.
This is Rob. Yes, thanks for calling. I saw your Wrangler on Craigslist and sent you an offer. Did you receive it? You did. And you are. Great. I'll call you back in a bit so we can wrap this up. I appreciate it. I'm getting better at this every day.
All right, that was episode 6 of the auction, one of 12 videos within the humor series released this year by Vehicle Acquisition Network. And you can catch all of those episodes by going to buywithvan.com. Look for blog. And in fact, if you scroll down, you'll see a link in by topic, and you can see all auction webisodes. We're about to release the 12th and final one. Next week is coming out. And there's also a special episode in there with writer and director Joe Webb, providing a little backstory on the production of that series. Good stuff. And you got to see Emily there and Bill Anderson. You saw Mark, you saw Tom. So really good stuff. But let's get moving on. We actually have Danny back. We're going to get our panel discussion started. You know, the entire industry has been hobbled for many months by the worldwide shortage of semiconductor chips, amongst other factors as well, all preventing manufacturers from producing enough vehicles to meet the demand from not just the world, but Americans in particular, who are eager to spend their pandemic savings, as we've seen, and those stimulus checks. And as a result, many dealerships are pretty much barren of inventory, and new rides are fetching at record prices. In fact, the cost of used vehicles reported just last week by the Department of Labor, the retail price of pre-owned cars and trucks have jumped a record-breaking 10.5% in the month of June, after rising 7.3% in May and 10% in April. So it doesn't matter if your heart's on a tricked-out F-150 or you just want a lightly used Honda Civic to get around. The market is brutal for everyone. So the question is, how long will we be stuck with these shortages? And is the car business hangover, COVID hangover, destined to linger on? Or can we expect maybe to return to normal? So what I'm going to do is get our panel discussion started. In fact, we're going to start here with Mr. Danny Moreno himself, who was able to hop on here. Danny, hello, and welcome to the Acquisition Council.
Hi, Ryan. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for being here. I know you had a little bit of trouble getting here as planned, but we are very glad to have you. I am going also to bring Ben on, and we're going to also bring Emily and Bill on as well. So here we go, everybody. We got Emily. We've got
Danny.
Bill. All right,
Hi,
we're all
Emily.
here.
Hi, Benjamin. Hi, Bill.
Well, hey, Danny. Welcome.
Hey, glad I made it.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, we are too, because I mean, look, we all, we're all coming from the inside with our own opinions, but you're right there, on the battleground in the forefront. So I'd love to maybe just hear from you to get this conversation started. Why don't you how are you, what does the supply demand issue mean for you guys right now? How have you been responding to it, and what have been some of your ultimate challenges?
So we're in Washington State. So we're in the Northwest area where all-wheel drive SUVs, trucks are kind of the dominant of the inventory. So a lot of shortage has caused people to freak out, or dealerships to freak out, in the sense of, hey, we need to buy anything and everything so we have a full inventory. But it also has caused the seller or the private party potential purchases for us a little bit tough, because with the demand of cars and the shortage of chips, it's put us in a pickle where one person who's selling their car sees one dealer asking 5-10% more, and all of a sudden they think their car's worth 5-10% more, and there's differences there. So has the chip affected us? Yes, but having a strong, solid team makes a big difference. So to answer your question, yeah, there's been a little bit of an adjustment and change there, and being affected by the shortage of chips.
And you say having that team has been really key for you, having a team to rely on through that process.
Yeah, I think it's important to have, depending on how big your store is, but if you're capable of having one or two people helping you out, or if you're a bigger store and you have the ability to have 3-4 employees backing you up, and everyone's kind of working the same market, it helps everybody. And believe it or not, you will find cars. They're out there.
Just to give us some contrast, volume-wise, how does your store compare to others in your area? You're a VW store in the Portland, in the city or the suburbs?
We're in between. We're right at the border between Oregon and Washington. So we're in Vancouver. We're only about a 10-minute drive from the Portland area. Like I've told Emily before, arguably we're probably the number one, top two buy center within the Washington and Oregon state, volume-wise, growth-wise, and just having a big corporation, as our dealership, to back us up makes a huge difference.
Yeah, Danny has done great things. Absolutely wonderful things with Van. I think when I checked in with them last month, they said that they acquired total in their acquisition center about 70 units or something like that. I mean, it's just insane. They're doing so well with the platform, and they've been with us for a while. So they've really learned the ins and outs of the system, best practices. They have their own sort of performance benchmarks that they follow. And that's kind of why I like to, or wanted to bring him on today, is to kind of share what it is they do and like how they've found their success in their acquisition department.
Danny, have you had to change your process much through this, the kind of supply demand conundrum we're in?
Yes and no. We just had to adjust to our sellers. A key thing that I think, there's other buy centers that sometimes will reach out to me and ask me questions on how they can be a little better. And the biggest thing that I tell them is, these people that are selling their cars, let's say through the van platform, okay? It's usually Craigslist, Facebook, etc., right? We can't treat them just like any other person, as if you're buying a car through yourself, right? I always tell the sellers, you are the seller, we are the customers, okay? What that means is we have control of, at the end of the day, we have control of how much we're going to pay for the car, but it's our job to educate and guide these people in knowing what to expect and how to sell their car. And sometimes people are open to that. So I haven't had the opportunity to sit one-on-one with people when they think that their car's worth 5-10% more, because they immediately think that we're going to scam them, that we're going to lowball them. But the process hasn't changed in the sense of people are still communicating. I'm still able to provide them the information they need and educate them. And most of the time it's been working out. Like I tell Emily, we see probably 15, 20 people at a van. We don't buy them all, but we buy 5, 6, 7 a month. And you can imagine, when you can make gross, it all evens out and pans out, and it becomes profitable.
Yeah. It's tough, because I can imagine the tendency, Danny, would be to sort of argue with somebody, right?
Yeah.
Like they're asking, like we looked at a Nissan Titan earlier today, with a retail value of about $37,000 and an asking price of $42,000, right? So immediately the tendency is to say, you're never going to get that, and here's
Right.
why. Like, you're just not going to, right? But the softer way to say it is, hey, that's fine. I mean, you might get that. You might bump into somebody who would be willing to pay you that much. You might have to wait a little while to bump into that perfect person, and so it might not be as a fast or easy a process as what it could be. If you wanted to get that much, I might, if it'd be okay, I could give you some advice, right, on your process here. It's a really good looking truck, and people would probably want to see a couple more angles of it, right? Particularly, the one of the moonroof and the, but feel free to use my offer as a backstop, right? Based on recent transactions that we've seen, we would be willing to pay somewhere between 35 and 37 for it. Well, it would be, I'm using a bad example. It was 33 to 34, I think, on this one, right? But I don't know, what's your experience with that sort of process? I mean, you talked in language that made it sound like you're kind of more of a seller advocate. Was that how you would describe your approach?
That's everyone's different. Everyone will take your information and they'll think of it in their own opinion. Sometimes people get upset that I'm telling them how the market is. Sometimes people are understanding, but yeah, we do run into situations where people are asking, let's just say 40 grand, the car's worth 35. There's a difference there, but it's funny because they usually will come back around. But you have to do your job and to follow up with these people, every 4 or 5 days or every 3 days, hey, just getting an update. Have you sold it? And the more you keep in touch, the more interest they see that you have. And they'll always have you in the back of their head saying, man, that guy really was interested in my truck. It's been 3 weeks. I haven't sold it. Let me reach out. And now the number that you propose may not sound so bad, So yeah, there's a little bit of a trouble in the sense of values, but do I educate them? Yes. And then there's times where even these people, these sellers educate me in certain things that I don't know about their truck or about the market. And I'm like, oh, wow, that makes sense. So yeah, it goes back and forth.
So
interesting.
Hey, Danny. Which pricing tools and metrics do you use? Are you a vAuto guy? Are you an AccuTrade guy? What do you
We use vAuto.
Do you share like days supply with those customers when they give you a hard time, or do you show
I
them?
do.
Okay.
I do. Yeah, I use the day supply. I don't know if you guys use vAuto, but at the bottom there's also like the kbb.com, which is like the one that the traditional consumer can get on the computer and log on to. And there's a couple options on there where you can adjust, add reconditioning cost and stuff like that, which really is what we've been using for the last couple months and has really helped.
So you're bringing somebody in, looking at a number with them, and adding and subtracting using their tool to show why the value is what your offer is.
Yeah, at the end of the day, the goal is to get the people in. You know, sometimes you can't because they want a number up front, and you know, unfortunately, if that's just the way to do it, then you have to do it. You know, you might give them an offer, but contingent, the condition, the mechanical part of it is good. And I try to get everything up front if the person doesn't want to come in. So that way when they show up and I can be like, hey, you didn't tell me that the back door was smashed in. And now I have tools to negotiate with these sellers.
Makes sense. So hey, show it, don't say it, right? Isn't that what we've been talking about all along? If you can show the customer the reality of the situation, even if they don't go and sell the car to you, they have much more, I think, faith and trust, and the potential for you to work with them again either way is probably much higher that way. Like Emily said, leaving a good impression with every consumer at the end, I think is huge.
Yeah, I agree.
Nice job.
Hey, I want to jump over to Ryan G. He's got a question from the live audience.
Man, good timing, because I was just coming on. We had a question here from Mary asking about your experience with follow-up, but specifically what she's asking is, do you find that you have much luck acquiring vehicles later in the process as a result of your follow-up?
Very, 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 very good question. So we all got to understand, and we all, most of us probably know, we lose a customer in a matter of seconds, in a matter of minutes, in a matter of hours. Here's why. Because you're not the only one trying to buy their car. They're private party buyers. There's probably 2, 3, 4 buy centers within your area, or just dealerships that are looking for inventory. So the easiest and the fastest time to close a deal or try to buy somebody's car is to get them in as soon as possible. However, there is times we got to understand people work, people have activities, and sometimes they're not able to do the same day visit with you. But what I would always recommend is, hey, if you can't come out to me, how about we come out to you? Sometimes people are okay with that. And, you know, you might have to put in a couple extra hours after work, or maybe show up a little early to their house, or maybe not take a lunch. But do we have a possibility of buying cars after the fact if we can't get them in within the first, let's say, 24, 48 hours? Yeah, as long as you follow up, you treat them nice, and you don't tell them, sometimes if you don't tell them information that could upset them, they'll seem to engage a little more. But if you're pretty straight up and you tell them, hey, your car's worth 30 and they're asking 40, chances are they will not reply back to you, or they will not be interested in communicating with you again.
Yeah. So so interesting, because you know, we do this with our team too, and you would think like the best time to buy the car would be day one, right? The day one listing, it just went live, you get hot on it, right? Like, I got to buy it now before somebody else does. But that's also the time when the customer is at their highest asking price, right? And so when you call them and you make the offer, they're like, well, I just posted it, I need to give it some time. And so on our team, we call that, you know, time to marinate a little bit, time to soften up, right? They need to take a couple of punches from the marketplace before they're willing to talk reality. So they got to have a couple of low offers from people. They got to have somebody stand them up on their lunch break, you know, to not see the car. They got to think they have a deal, only to have the buyer not get approved from the bank, and they've turned down 3 other offers in the meantime, right? And now they still don't have a deal, right? So after a week goes by of this, you call back and the offer seems a little nicer. So I don't
Right.
know. Like, do you feel like there's a certain day that's like hotter? You know, is it like the day 5s are the best ones, the day 10s?
I agree with what you said, because we do that as well. But sometimes if you're able to justify and give the benefits of selling it now, it could get you the 2-3 car deals within the first 48 hours, right? The value's worth more now. There's a higher demand now. You're going to run into people who are going to waste your time, and then people are like, yeah, you're right. I don't want to wait a week and lose, especially now with the market. It seems like, at least in the Northwest area that we're in the West Coast, values are adjusting back down to normal. The books are still extremely high, but when you go to the live market auctions and whatnot, you're seeing the 5-10% going back to normal. So, yeah, you could buy more cars if you wait a week, because people are getting beat up in the live market. But then also you might lose out on those customers who are willing to sell within the first 2 days to avoid the headache of dealing with flakers and scammers.
Yeah, so it seems like the best thing to do would be to hit them early to provide a baseline and a backstop, right? Say, hey, here would be our offer, here would be our offer range. Make sure you don't sell it for less. Well, I'm going to hang on and try to sell it for more. Absolutely. I would do the same thing if it was me. In fact, I would make sure you take a couple more angles of the car and make sure you get pictures of the special equipment. People are going to want to see that. But make sure you don't take any less than this. And if you ever get tired of the process, just call me. Use me as a backstop, right?
Yep.
You can come in and you can cash this check within 60 minutes. That's no big deal. Just anytime you're ready to call it, you had enough, just call me up. We're here. We're ready. We'll make it easy for you.
Right.
Guys, here's a question from John on the live chat asking if you find that texting, calling, or email works best. Is there any one of these mediums that's beating out the others in your experience?
Great question.
Really good question. I found that texting is the quickest, obviously, of a response time. However, I do get people who don't text back and they call. Why? Because since we're reaching out to them through Craigslist, and unfortunately there's a lot of people out there who are out to scam or to try to get information or sell them product, they want to hear your voice. They want to know you're real. So it may not be a bad idea to give them a call. They can hear that you're an actual person, that you're actually interested in buying their car, not in selling them something.
Yeah.
That's a good question, John. Thanks for your question. Guys, we have about 10 minutes remaining here for the discussion. I thought it'd be good maybe to segue the final part of the conversation into, I guess you call it market speculation. From what we see, wholesale prices at the auction have gone down. I think in May, from May to June, they've gone down, which would be an indicator that maybe we've hit that plateau of pricing. So, Bill, I know you keep a good pulse on the market. How would you, looking ahead into the next couple of months, do you forecast the retail prices matching that and going down as well?
Yeah, I think there's a lot in play still that we don't exactly know how it will play out. And that's, the economy as a whole, where the consumer's confidence is. But yeah, I hear the prices were artificially high because of a shortage. The chips will get made again. Cars will eventually go back to a more normal state. But what's next, guys? I think we've been living in a time that's a little unprecedented. I mean, I don't think anybody's ever dealt with or at least I haven't, and I'm old here. But it's, nobody's ever dealt with a pandemic on this panel, right? That I'm aware of. I don't remember any. My parents seem to talk to me about polio and some other stuff that was pre-me, but nobody's dealt with this, right? I really don't know. The response and how the government responded to the pandemic and the economic problems that it caused people, Was that right or wrong? Will there be backlash because of it? I really can't say, Ryan. You know, but yeah, getting back to normal and prices coming down, everything that goes up comes back down. That's just a normal business cycle, I think.
Yeah, I mean, there's speculation that manufacturing of new cars is going to be hurting all through 2022. Like we still have a year to year and a half of dealing with new car production being an issue. But obviously with prices at the auction going down, it can be, Ben, you used the term a few months ago, a bellwether, right? The auto industry is a bellwether to the economy. We're seeing everything go up. Gas prices are up, you know, what, 60% in some areas from 6 months ago.
Yeah.
And used cars, are matching that as well. So, Danny, from a speculative standpoint, how, does that have any impact on what you're willing to pay for a car? Are you looking at cars from consumers that you're like, man, if I buy this now at $6,000 and a month from now prices go down, you're in the hole? Do you have to factor that into to making offers?
Yes, 100%. There's actually been a couple cars where we bought really well. The market changed, in a couple of weeks, because it took me a couple of weeks to even get it to an auction to try to sell it. And I was like, whoa, I own it for pretty close to value. And now, I'm scrambling to find out what I'm going to do with the car. But yeah, we take that in mind. We think about, okay, if the book dropped, I always like to check a couple weeks before what happened with the book. Did it go up? Did it go down? As of right now, it's going down, obviously. But if I see that it changed in last 2 weeks, a $500 or $1,000 swing, I estimate, okay, it might do another $500 or $1,000 swing in the next week. So if it takes me a week to get rid of it, I have to just make sure that I measure for that. But we've been able to do pretty good, at least for right now. We haven't taken any hits. So, knock on wood for that one. But
yeah, I think that's really smart, Danny. I mean, you got to be looking at what the market's going to do. The car business has never been a long game, right? I mean, unless you're reinvesting the profits into a long game, right? It's always a short game. And so whether the market values are going up or whether they're going down, the goal is to get in and out, make your profit margin, regardless of the overall direction of the curve. Right. And so when we're in these volatile times, nothing has changed. The only thing that's changed is our need to continue to buy cars when there are no seemingly affordable cars to buy. And that's what has driven all of this attention to the for sale by owner marketplace. And so I think the best thing that can come out of this whole thing is that professional buyers of used cars start paying attention, start developing a process and a procedure for making sure that these opportunities don't go unrecognized and uncapitalized. And I don't think that's going to change with the end of the pandemic, right? I think that smart operators will continue to see the value in doing business this way, in being the go-to sell-to resource in their community, even when the cars are plentiful and cheap at the auction once more. These cars are still going to be out there, and they're not going to be $20,000 higher. They're not going to be $10,000 higher. They're going to be the same percentage over that they are or under that they are right now. The difference is some people are still going to be buying them and selling them profitably, and others just won't be. They'll be further behind. So I see the correction is coming. I mean, we've looked at, I'm looking at it right now, the MMR retention, right? And that's been consistently under 100 since the end of May. So cars are bringing consistently, 3%-ish, right? In that range, 3% less than the former average, the recent average. And it's just cars there's a cap there, right? Because you can only pay so much for it before it will, like, you'll still have a loan at the end of the serviceable life of the vehicle. So it can't continue to go up forever. And I think we've seen the bubble pop. Sorry, I'm going on and on, but I do think it's going to get harder before it gets easier. And the reason for that is public perception is typically lagging behind the market reality. And so we've seen there was a huge opportunity there for a little bit, because before the public became aware that used cars were very valuable, dealers were able to reach out and pay them almost close to asking price, right? Which sometimes makes the deal a little bit easier. Now it seems like the opposite's happening, where just as the public is becoming, it's common in the public consciousness that used cars are at a premium, that they need to sell them for all the money. Right as that's happening, the values are starting to go back down again, and so there's less attention. So that gap is widening. So to everybody that's currently engaged in this project, I'd encourage you to stand firm. It's going to be challenging. I'm sure Danny will agree. It's going to be challenging for the next 6 months or so, but it's no different than any other time in the car business, right? Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's difficult. The good operators can weather the storm, and they have good processes and procedures, and they support their people throughout the ups and downs, and today is no different.
Yeah, there's definitely a delay there. Like I mentioned earlier, you get dealers who are buying cars, let's say in April, even just a little bit in May, and they were paying 5-10% more. And now they're asking, they have to ask at least what they paid or more to make some profit or break out of the cars. And now that the market has kind of settled, you're getting the private party sellers saying, whoa, that guy's asking, an example, 50 grand. My car's worth 50 grand, when the life market is telling us the car's worth 45. So I agree with what you said. It's definitely, the customer is definitely behind on the information of the live market, because they're not there, unless you can go to the auction yourself physically, or you have the system programs that we have to see values change day to day. But yeah, it's definitely getting tougher. The profit margins, or the amount of what you can pay for a car, have changed just in the last couple months.
Guys, we're out of time, but I'm going to squeeze in one more question. And Emily, you saw the question coming from Mary on the live chat. If you want to pose that to Danny, and then we'll go ahead and we'll wrap up the show here.
Sounds good. So question from the audience was, Danny, has your communication with the private seller brought you additional business with referrals?
Yes, 100%. And, our buy center that we have is inside the Volkswagen store, as we mentioned in the beginning of our conversation. Not only has it brought me referrals, it has brought the sales team an opportunity to either sell them a car or sell somebody in the family a car. When they show up and you're appraising their car, and you're typing away trying to get the value and propose them with an offer, they could be walking around your lot, and they can say, whoa, I like that car. Maybe I don't want to sell it. I want to trade it in. And, as a store, we're all a team, right? So you benefit. You get the trade, you sell them a car, and then you treat them nice and you give them a good experience. And then they're sending their uncle, their friend, and so on and so forth. So, yeah, we've got a lot of referrals, and sometimes they could have had a good experience with selling their car, and now they want to sell their wife's car down the road. So yeah, you get a bunch of referrals as long as you treat your sellers good and you educate them through the process.
Thank you for the question, Mary, and John as well. Thank you for your question as well. Well, folks, we're out of time for today. Danny Moreno, thank you for being here from Dick Hanna Volkswagen in Portland. Thank you,
guys. Appreciate it for having me.
Thanks, Danny.
Thanks, Danny.
And Emily, thank you for lining that up with Danny as well, and helping us kick off our brand new Acquisition Council show. It's great to have you back up here.
Yeah, happy to be here. Thanks for the questions, Ben. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Emily. Appreciate your insight.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Bill, who's backstage too. Thank you, Bill Van, co-founder, who hope to be a more and more regular part of the Acquisition Council experience. So this is our new thing. We got Ben at the ranch house in Houston, and me in my new kind of home studio here. You got new monitor in the background there, live here from the Chicagoland in Illinois. So Ben, we did it, man. We launched a whole new concept. We had some hiccups in the beginning, but we had a lot of good turnout. Thanks for everyone for being here, and again for posing out your questions as well. What'd you think, Ben? How'd our first jab at this go?
I had no doubts, Ryan. I have no doubts it's a resounding success. We've got some great information out there. We've got some actionable intelligence. I think that anybody in our audience can take back to their stores and fold into their processes. And I love sitting around talking cars. So thumbs up for me.
It is a fascinating and historic time. By the way, I think a goat walked by in the background while you were talking. That's
Definitely did.
I saw.
You saw the wagon train go through.
That's what that was.
There's a bighorn sheep right there.
Look at that.
I don't know if
Very
you can
neat.
see it or not. You can cut this part out, right?
We can do whatever we want. And that's what we do, folks. We do the show partly because we've been doing a webinar every month for the past several years. And that's how we make all this great blog content that we have. In fact, let me bring this back up. I was showing you episode, was it episode 6 from the Auction Webisode series. So head on over to buywithvan.com. Sign up in the Learning Center. Go to the Learning Center and sign up, and you'll get the inside scoop about what we have planned for the show from month to month. If you're in the business and you want to get up here on the show, then reach out to me or Ben or to Emily or to Bill. If you know one of us, reach out to us, and we'd love to have you up here on the show as well. We're featuring different interviews, different panel discussions, and then all of this information gets chopped up and featured out on our blog, just like I'm showing you here. All this information goes out to the blog, and that becomes part of our learning center. So I think with that, we're going to go ahead and sign off. I'm Ryan Gerardi, and Ben and everybody. We'll see you guys next month at this stage.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Ryan.